Hi, my name's Matt Locke, and this is the Everyday Athletes vlog, the vlog for the everyday athletes around the world who refuse to be average and who want to create a legacy of health, fitness, and achievement in every aspect of their lives. I'm glad you're here, and once again, it's time to forge your future. Mr. Stuart Walter, welcome to the Everyday Athletes podcast.
Thank you very much, Lee.
It is a pleasure to have you here. Now, you and I have a little bit of history. We've known each other for, I'm guessing, 2 or 3 or 4 years now, actually. I'm very excited to introduce you to the Bay Games audience and the Everyday Athlete podcast audience. And I just know that there's going to be a whole ton of value in this for everyone listening. So if you could just, tell us a bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, and then we'll dive in.
Okay, I guess let's go on taglines. I'm the guy that world champions choose to get their head in the game. That's pretty much me. At the moment, I've got 38 world champions I work with of the elite levels of sport, also working on the average sports. Also, I've got online programs for business and weight loss, basically anything to do with the mental aspect of life, basically. But I just really love that elite level. I love pushing the limits of mind and body.
Yeah, fantastic. So you are the founder and owner of Elite Mindset Institute.
Yep.
And you are a professional clinical hypnotherapist and an NLP practitioner.
Yes. It doesn't really say much. I mean, clinical hypnosis, people would probably already judge me by going, oh, he's going to make it do some weird stuff. But it's the concept, it's the process. And I spend a lot of my time demystifying the whole making you do stupid things on stage. But the whole of the clinical side of it has actually come from stage hypnosis.
Right, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Even typical everyday wording and life, we're talking about being mesmerized. Anton Mesmer was the founder of modern day hypnosis. And it was known that basically you look into his eyes and therefore you became into this weird trance. So Mesmer eyes is actually the eyes that are created like fixed focus stare. And that's where it's all come from. So it's within so many community channels these days. It's just amazing.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. And so you're using those skills. You're working with elite athletes, ambitious entrepreneurs, and individuals, and you're helping them recognize their potential. It's about achieving amazing results. Is that fair to say? Yeah,
that's fair to say. It's interesting. I love the word potential because it's like with real estate. You buy the potential, but you're only paying reality. I use the example of, like, if anyone's interested in a great equation I use for all my seminars and workshops is your existing results equal your potential minus your fears. Think about that. So think about what you could do, and I can guarantee where you are now is a result of all your fears. So all I do is basically get in, question, and manage your fears, and next thing you're closer and closer to your potential.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, look, some people, I suspect, might tune out a little bit subconsciously, even when they hear the word hypnotherapy, because you mentioned the whole on-stage thing, and people being made to do crazy or silly things. And I know last time we spoke, but for this audience, my father was a dental surgeon for 40-odd years. And back in the day, in the UK, they received hypnotherapy training as part of their clinical training. Yeah. And he used that on and off throughout his career with some patients, not many, but there were a couple of patients in particular that had extractions done or other work done whilst hypnotized because they just couldn't bear the thought of having an injection. And because they were good enough subjects that he was confident, and he did some pre-work with them and was able to use it to very good effect for that. Which for me made a lot of sense. But outside of his work as well, with family members, people being nervous about taking their driving test, literally down at that level. Phobias of flying, for example, but claustrophobic, for example, and had amazing results. So I used to be a non-believer. I was the classic cynical, it's all head voodoo nonsense. And I can speak from personal experience, having been hypnotized several times by him for various reasons. It's so powerful.
Yeah, it is incredible, and it still blows me away with the results that my clients get. I typically, when I'm doing seminars, I do an example of a national sprint and hurdle champ back in 2008 that I worked with. he was throwing up 2 days before an event. Wow. So you can imagine that. And this kid is already number one in the country. So you can imagine someone number one in the country, what is he nervous about? Okay, it's all predetermined. It's all these programs that are operating underneath. There's judgment, there's fear, there's nerves. And it's, if I was nervous last time, I'm probably going to be nervous this time. Therefore, next time is going to be. So it's a never-ending program that he's running. And all we did, I mean, as an example, he was running 56.5 when I first met him. So for the 400-meter hurdles. Within a month, by getting focused on the end result, managing nerves and doubts and fears, we reduced his time down to 52.6. That's a 3.9 second reduction. Wow. Now, that wasn't changing technique. That wasn't doing anything else. You can't train in a month and reduce your time by 6.9 seconds when you're already number one in the country.
So nothing else changed, not nutrition, not training, not recovery. It was purely the mindset.
Purely mindset, which is focused on the end result, removing nerves and doubts and fears. Because if you're into the physical aspect of sport. So what happens is if you're stressed and nervous, your brain goes back to learned behaviors. Okay, so therefore, it's also going into survival, which is hide, tighten up. So you don't actually relax. I mean, when you've got a tight muscles like this, relaxed muscles like this, and all of a sudden you're getting greater expansion, greater explosion. Okay, all we needed to do with him was to relax, trust what he's capable of doing, because if you're training relaxed and then you go to a competition and you tighten up, all the training's useless because you don't have the right technique, you don't have the reach, you don't have everything else. So all we did was just basically teach him how to remove the nerves and doubts on track, and bang, blitzed it. But you're looking at that on track. That 3.9 second was a 27.6 meter gain.
Wow.
You look at his average running speed. So you look at that running down the track. I mean, he was already winning by 5 meters with the next in line, but now he's another 27 meters ahead of that.
Yeah, that's
all his opposition looked at him, and it wasn't what is he doing, but what are we not doing? They tightened up and went backwards even further.
Sure. And so that's one of the, I mean, you was it 36 or 38 world champions now?
38.
38 you've worked with. Across what range of sports are we talking here?
Oh, with NRL for a rugby league world teams challenge. I've got bull riders, triathlon, duathlon, BMX, rowing, solo rowing. What else have I got? Swimming.
Diving? Did you still have diving or?
No, diving, second Olympic silver medal.
Yeah.
Heaps.
Yeah. So across
bodybuilding.
Yep.
Junior Olympia and Mr. Olympia overseas. Yeah. So lots, to be honest.
And you go under the pseudonym of the athlete's secret weapon.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. We just had a bit of a talk before that. One of the 15-year-old diver I worked with back prior to the 2012 Olympics. She was 15-year-old Brittany Broven. I was working with her. She was going through all sorts of changes and disappeared over to London. We finally got her selected over there. But 15-year-old, she just turned 16 before the Olympics, smashed out a silver medal. When she was getting interviewed by Australian media, they go, hang on, you're only just 16, you're on the biggest stage in the world, you're clapping all your opposition coming down, you're patting them on the backside to get up the stairs, you're so relaxed, you're having fun, but as soon as you step on the step, you go up to the platform, you just like change. What's your secret? And she goes, I'm not telling anyone about my secret weapon. And that was basically it. The name stuck, it stuck, and it became my online program, my brand for athletes. I mean, it's more than athletes now. I do work with a huge amount of entrepreneurs, business people as well.
Yep.
So the athlete mind and the business mind are very similar when you look at peak performance. Okay, one is more physical and the other is mental. But athletes are actually now creating their own, I guess, business identities. So they're going into the brand in the business, whereas a lot of entrepreneurs now are getting away from the typical corporate look and they're going more towards the athlete. So it's eating healthy, it's exercising, it's getting all that in there. So they're basically molding between each other and becoming almost very similar.
Yeah, it's true. Actually, while you were talking, reminded me of a recent chat I had with Felicity Galvez, the swimmer.
Yeah.
Awesome lady, loved her bits, and she was sharing, quite candidly, I guess, her experience of how she got her 2 gold medals, and the lead up. She was going into detail about the lead up to the Olympics and how it works. And it's pretty brutal, the whole the process of being selected and so on.
Yeah.
But maybe it has to be. But nonetheless, but she said when she was in Beijing and about to go into those 2 sort of key races in particular, one of the differences for her was she didn't let go of caring. Of course, she cared. Her whole life revolved around it, but she relaxed.
Yeah.
She relaxed into it, and allowed herself to perform, obviously, at her best, and came away with 2 gold medals. But that was definitely a key moment. Perhaps I didn't realize the magnitude of that at the time, but now discussing this with you, it becomes more
it's
obvious.
incredible. You just look at a lot of other athletes and you see this is the biggest stage in the world. They train 4 to 6 days a week, 2 to 3 hours a day, 7 days a week for one event that might last 10 seconds every 4 years. How can you get in that zone? And that's one of my unique abilities, is to actually get them to go, right, bang, here you are, switch on. So no matter what's happening in the lead up to an event, as soon as the goggles go on, or as soon as the helmet goes on for motor racing, or a golfer grabs their club, instantly that trigger is going to trigger their mindset to go right back into that zone. Okay, so therefore I can virtually guarantee that every time you either step on the line, grab a club, put your goggles on, hop on a bike, put your shoes on, hop on the spikes or the starting blocks, you're basically just switching straight into that mode, which is getting you to a relaxed state as well.
That's interesting. And another example from my dad, actually, he helped a friend of mine who was a police officer, and he was taking his police motorcycle test.
Yeah.
And it meant a lot to him. Like, that was what he wanted to do. And he was a great bike rider, actually, but he was super nervous. And the trigger that Dad did some work with him, and the trigger was, he said, the second I put the key in ignition on the bike to go and do the ridden part of the test, he said, I was just flooded with the knowledge that I knew I was going to pass. I knew I was going to pass. And from that, he said, I enjoyed the whole test, actually. He said, because I was just in the groove, I was in my zone, I was doing my thing. Yeah, for sure, he passed with flying colours.
But it's amazing, that whole psychosomatic connection, which is the mind and body. If you're thinking tight and nervous, you're going to tighten up. Your body's just ready to go into survival mode rather than trusting and relaxing.
Yeah, absolutely.
As soon as you do that, it's the same as I've got a lot of the Porsche Carrera Cup drivers, V8 drivers, same thing. As soon as their helmet goes on, bang, everything shuts out. They relax, they become mechanical. There's no emotions in there. They trust the automatic response, because the speeds they're going, just incredible. They can't overthink it. So as soon as you pull I guess you're thinking out of this conscious mind, which is where all the emotions are, down to this logical level, there's no emotions down here. So therefore you don't have fears, you don't get nervous, you don't second guess, you don't doubt yourself, you don't have anxious or anxiety responses, because you just come back down to this logical. You almost become mechanical, which is how you train.
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder what drives that, the nervousness there. What is it that causes us to get anxious, to get nervous? If I trained for 4 years for a 10-second race, for example.
Yeah, it's pressure that we put on ourselves. Basically, you go, I need to really perform. So that need is enough to go, but what if I don't? So therefore, you've now got 2 conflicting thoughts within your head. One is going to be, I've got the abilities, but I've got the emotional response. Your brain, in times of pressure and stress, you always go back to learned behaviours. So when you go back to learned behaviours, if your last event, you were nervous, your brain goes, put pressure on, therefore I'm going to be nervous. That's how the brain works. It's what we call a trigger-based response. Now, there's going to be all the same triggers, but imagine we can rewire a positive response versus a negative response.
Yep.
And that's all it is. It's just like switching emotions around and rewire it. You go, right, when the pressure's on, this is where you then go back to, hang on, I've done the training 7 days a week, 4 hours a day, for 8 hours, or for 8 years, for one event that's 10 seconds. So instead of this automatic response, we've now got this new response. It's like trigger-based response, like a traffic light. When you see a red light, you've already got your foot on the brakes.
Yep.
Do you know how many calculations happen in 1 second in your brain? Neural pathways fire.
Yeah, no, that
There's 3,000 neural pathways fire.
3,000, right?
So here's my little demo. One tennis ball. Okay, so between here and there, 3,000 neural pathways. Okay, because your brain has to kind of hand-eye coordination. As soon as the ball hits, you've got that response of catching it. But what if you just decide, hey, look, okay, it's the hand-eye coordination. So where a lot of people go, yeah, just think of a happy place, you can't do that because your brain's already fired. It's already got that negative response, that fear-based response, which is a protection. Because it knows that if any athlete's going out to push themselves, they're going to hurt themselves physically and emotionally. They're going to push themselves to potentially breaking point. So the brain's going, yeah, but I don't want to break. So how can I hold myself back? There's all sorts of second guessing and doubting and conserving energy. And then you get to the end of it and go, oh, could have done more. Okay. I think your microphone's off.
Oh, sorry. There we go.
And we're back.
Yeah, you snuck the F word in there. You used the F word, and ironically, not by design, I'm wearing a T-shirt for our athletes this year that signed up early, fearless. But
Yep.
You used the word fear there, and I guess, is that what's underpinning this? Is it a fear that I won't perform, a fear I'll choke, a fear I won't be my best, whatever it is?
Fear is, I use example with fear. I mean, fear is, again, we got this, your existing results equal your potential minus your fears. You may think, oh, but I'm not nervous. Okay, do you guarantee where you're going to be? Can you relax? Are you second guessing? Are you doubting yourself? Are you not sleeping well? Are you churning at night? All those are fear responses. They're all manifested behaviors based on that thing called fear. Our unconscious mind's got one job, and that's to protect you from potential hurt, potential harm, physically and emotionally. Okay, so in times of pressure and stress, we always want to go back to go, right, how can I protect myself? Look at the whole COVID thing that we've been through. Okay, initially it was just fear, fear, fear. Okay, that is what was spread. But you look at the reality of it, okay, so what was the reality?
Right, yeah.
Fear is only created through past experiences. Okay, you can only have fear now based on the past experiences. So past experiences, once you can disconnect that sensation of fear or the emotional connection to it, it's just like cutting it off and going, right, if I could start life again now with everything I now know, what's possible? Because imagine a builder with every time he went back to pick up some power drill or power tool, got electrocuted. How many times would you go back and touch it? You wouldn't, would you? And that's exactly what emotional experiences are like. If this experience in the past hurt you, you wouldn't want to go back and touch it. So you kind of remove yourself from it, suppress it, push it aside. So then when you need to go, right, I want to go and do this, your brain goes, yeah, but remember this one? That's going to hurt you. So it holds yourself back.
Awesome. So when you're working with an elite athlete, let's say, how do you try and address that? What's the process you go through?
It's more of a questioning at the time, because when people go, oh, I'm nervous, I get fears. Okay, so it's easy just to throw it out there, but I'm the one that kind of goes, okay, so how do you know what you're feeling is a fear? What are you thinking is actually a fear? Is that a fear or is it reality? Okay, you might have a fear of sharks, but you can't have a fear of sharks sitting in your office. Probably not reality. You can't have a fear of sharks standing on the beach. Okay, when was the last time they just kind of came up and got you? No, they don't. If you're up to your neck in the water and there's one hanging off your leg, is that a fear? No, it's reality. So fear is only present up here based on what we think may or may not happen.
And that could be based on experience, or we've seen something. We've watched Jaws. Most of us have never had a bad experience with sharks. Ever.
No, exactly.
And aren't going to, but we've seen a movie that instills that fear into us.
So we haven't learned what fear is. We haven't been programmed by parents or media or friends. Even if someone says, hey, look, public speaking is scary. If you've never done it before, you've taken that belief on because you believe that person. Therefore, you go out and you conform to that belief.
Yep.
So with athletes, once you question, okay, what is fear? Now, fear is just the past. Okay. Can you have fear in the future? No. But what if you went to have a look at, imagine yourself on the podium with a gold medal around your neck? Is that scary? No. Okay, so why should you be scared now about that end result? and it can actually or unwind and re-engineer itself.
Yeah, sure.
Itself back, so therefore fear is no longer relevant.
Excellent. So that's dealing, I mean, for me, as a logical-minded person, in the way I think, that makes total sense. And to deconstruct the subject that way, for me, is thoroughly logical, and therefore it resonates with me. But so then, do you then install, I mean, through hypnotherapies, you then install or give them systems to use that they can, when they're in that moment or before that moment, how that they can bring themselves to a point of being relaxed?
Yeah, so for me, Matt, you've got the conscious mind, which is the top 3 to 5% of how we think, act, and behave. This is where everyone's sitting right now thinking, where is this guy going with this conversation? So I specialize in the 95 to 98, because if you're up here on the surface, you are a result of all these programs. Trying to change who you are on the surface is virtually impossible if you've got these programs running. So with hypnosis, we get below that conscious level. We come into the unconscious programs and go, right, is this helping you? Yes. Okay, keep doing it. No, change it. Bang. How do we change it? So as long as it's helping you. So when you have thoughts of fear and automatic responses, as you say, analytically, it makes sense. For those people that are really kinesthetic or emotional, you go, okay, so where are you feeling it? Are you feeling it around your throat? Are you feeling nervous? Is it in your arms? Is it in your stomach? Because generally, the stomach is the second brain. Okay, so if this is tight, this is going to be tight. Okay, if your brain is churning, your stomach's going to be churning, which is why people say, I've got butterflies.
Interesting, yeah.
Okay, so what I look at is going, okay, well, if that thought equals that sensation, who chooses your emotions? Who chooses your actions, your behaviors, your beliefs? You do. So therefore, why are you choosing to be nervous? Oh, good point. Okay, if you can choose to be nervous, what would you choose to be instead? Okay, I want to be relaxed and. Well, you can't be relaxed if your brain's tight and your stomach's tight. So there's this process, as I said, with the hurdler, where you can actually pull out these emotions that you're feeling through this trigger, bang, dump them. Then all of a sudden it's like, right, when your brain has this trigger again, it goes straight to that place in your stomach. That sensation isn't there now, and we can simply replace it. We can replace it quite simply. Like if you're a tennis player, okay, every time you get the ball, okay, what is this worth to you? Physically, emotionally, financially, how does it make you feel if you're the world number one? What if all your dreams came true, but what if you could imagine that in your stomach? Then all of a sudden that trigger is going to trigger this sensation. All right, this is the place. This is where I can show off all my talents, my abilities, my skills. Yeah, the hard work is done at training, but now this is time to shine. Versus, oh, how am I going to go? So you know exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's a fascinating subject. I know that, again, an example from myself, I, for some reason, over 20 years ago, for some reason, suddenly got really nervous about the thought of flying. Yeah. And it was really frustrating because I wasn't aware of any reason for it. I hadn't had a bad experience. And again, the logical mind was just so frustrated by this, but it was a very real sensation, as you say, that the churning stomach, like really 2 days before flying. And long story short, I had 2 10-minute sessions with that. That was my first introduction to hypnotherapy. Just 2 10-minute sessions. That's all it was. And there were 2 things that stand out in my mind. One, when I was during the process of being hypnotized, I remembered thinking I could open my eyes at any time. But I don't want to, because this is awesome. My arms felt like they'd sunken way into the arms of the couch I was sitting on. And it was just the most wonderful feeling, but I felt totally in control. And going back to the beginning where we talked about, people doing silly things on stage and so on. For me, I simply had total awareness, felt like I had total control, and I just loved it. It was such a relaxed feeling. It was awesome.
That's one of the skeptical things that people think, because they see stage hypnosis, but the stage hypnotists also tell these people they will not remember what they do, so therefore they don't remember. Yeah. People think they're in some weird trance because they don't remember, but they're told to forget, so they do. Right.
Yeah.
If I was on stage, which is exactly the same process. So if anyone's out there thinking, is that real on stage? Yes, it is, because 1, I've done it. 2, I've had it done to me. So I know exactly what goes on. But imagine someone else pulling out, say, a bikie out of the crowd.
Yep.
6 foot tall, bulletproof, tats, beard, leather, denim. And you go, right, bing, play this music. When you hear this music, you become a ballerina. So here's someone, no skills, no abilities, no talent, there for the entertainment, happy to make a fool of himself because that's within his normal model of the world, prancing around on stage thinking he's a ballerina. So that's entertainment. So what I do, I step on stage, I pull out a ballerina out of the crowd. Okay, when you hear this music, you become a ballerina. All the grace and the speed and the height and the power that you need. I mean, she's already got skills, abilities, talents.
Yep.
She knows what she needs to do. Remove the emotions, and then all of a sudden, you've got one of the best ballerinas in the world.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's exactly the same process, and there's that trigger-based response. When you hear the music, you become, and
yep.
you will remember when you walk on stage, and you will feel good, and that's basically it.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Remember.
That's a really great way of explaining it. And so the second point from my experience was even now. I mean, I've done the last 20 years a lot of flying in my corporate life and so on. A lot of flying, and but literally it was like getting in a taxi. I wouldn't even think about it. It's irrelevant. But even now, without any conscious thought on my part, as the plane pushes back from the terminal, without me having any awareness, I fall asleep.
Yep.
And as we level out and the seatbelt goes ding, I just gently wake up, feel amazing, and smile because I know what's just happened. But I was completely, nothing conscious about that from my perspective at all. And that was that was over 20 years ago. It's
amazing because everything we've done in our past, it's all back here. I can take you back to any day in your life. I can get you to tell me what happened, when it happened, what you were wearing, who you spoke to, every single word. It's all in there.
Wow.
So all we've got to do is that trigger-based response. So now plane equals that. You can't lose that. It's in there. It's programmed.
Right.
So you look at it and go, how powerful is that one versus how powerful could a negative one be?
So if I need to remember what I had for breakfast today, you'd be able to find that out for me. Because I find myself forgetting more and more these days.
Exactly. No, that's just old age.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But no, it's a fascinating subject. So I'm conscious of time. What sort of hints or advice would you give to our audience who are predominantly everyday athletes?
Yeah.
They're not professional athletes, let's say. We've got some weapons, but we're not talking about professional athletes who that's what they do for a living, let's say.
Yeah.
If they haven't tried this, if they haven't tried hypnotherapy, for example, but they know they get nervous or they're just good and they're looking to be even better, what would your advice be?
My advice would be really question where all these responses came from. Because if you're choosing your behaviors, your actions, your habits, your responses, because they are your choice, because you can have, like, look at coronavirus as an example. Some people have collapsed under the pressure, others have flourished. Okay, it's exactly the same trigger, but it's a choice of, is this going to happen or is this going to happen? So when we bring it back to, right, this is the awareness, this is the acceptance of who you are in the past. If you're feeling this sensation of fear or nerves, it's based on past experiences. So therefore, you're choosing that. What I'll offer is for everyone that's listening at the moment, if maybe I can send it through to you, Matt, the file for the Dear Diary process.
Sure. Yeah, I can put absolutely. I can put that in the show notes.
Actually, one moment, please. Ta-da!
Oh, there you go. There's a book. For those listening, not watching, it's a book called The Dear Diary
Process.
Yep.
Yes, it is. It's a process. When I worked with a professional golfer back in 2010, 17th of March 2010. I know that because it was such a memorable day.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I write in my diary every night. I went, why? It's history. You've done it. It's like watching the news. It's history. I said, well, the way your brain works is if you're writing something down, you bring it to your attention, you're feeling the emotions. So if you had a bad golf game and you think writing that when you go to bed, what's going to be in your head? Bad golf game, bad golf game. You're going to be processing that for the next 8 hours. Then you're going to wake up and go, that's right, I've been thinking about bad golf all day. So therefore, ta-da, that's what you're going to get.
Yep.
So he was very consistent in his crappiness, basically, within golf. So as I said to him, the way the brain works is whatever you're thinking about, that's what's going to happen. So instead of writing tonight what you did, how about writing tonight how tomorrow was in advance? So how did you sleep? How did you wake up? How did you feel? Okay, as an example, bang, tomorrow. the first day of the Bay Games. I slept beautifully knowing, done the work, it's all going to be fun. This is where I can really get out there, have fun and shine. As soon as I woke up, almost like a bit of a check through my body, bang, came alive, full of energy, full of life, ready to go. Okay? Think about what we've just done versus the negative of, oh, I don't know how I'm going to go, but what if, but what if, but what if? Last time I was nervous, I'm feeling nervous now, and you start sleeping on that. So the brain can rewire itself according to intention and emotions. So the Dear Diary process is setting your intentions about how tomorrow went. We're using the past tense words to say it did happen, this is what I did, how it felt, and the end result. So therefore, if you're processing all that at night, you're more prone to sleeping deeper because you know what the outcome is, so therefore it's going to start conforming. Okay, that's the intention, that's the emotional connection, and you basically can transform your life while you're sleeping at night. So yeah, happy to send you the ebook version of that. It's basically instruction manual for life. You basically write it down how tomorrow was in advance. So I would say, for any advice for people that are unsure about their mind and the powers, you've got the skills, you've got the abilities, you've got the talents now to achieve whatever you want. The only thing stopping you is this little element of fear. If you can write fear out of the equation and just go, right, I felt amazing, I felt light, I felt strong. Halfway through, I decided to put my arms out like a plane and fly around on the beach. It happens because I do it, I test it, and I know the incredible results.
No, absolutely.
So it's a good step into people taking control of what they can control. I'm not saying I'm not hypnotizing you, it's just you're kind of hypnotizing yourself by your new programs.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's when you get I guess, an analytical person that goes, oh, what are we going to do? I'm scared about hypnosis. What's the first thing we do? Well, as I say, the first thing I normally do is dehypnotize people. Get rid of the old programs, the old responses, the old version of you, and rewire you up with a new version.
Yeah, no, fantastic. Well, that's very generous. Thank you. We'll put a link to that in the show notes.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, absolutely would encourage. I mean, I'm familiar with that book actually, and can speak to it. So yeah, that's great. Thank you very much. For those who would like to reach out and find out more about you, or maybe work with you, or you mentioned you also have an online program, how would they do that? Where do they find you?
Yeah, same. Reach out. I was going to say a bit like a virus, I'm everywhere, but that's probably not good terminology these days.
No.
Yeah, if you just do a search for Elite Mindset Institute, okay, that'll go to my general everyday website. But if you're looking for it, just go to the athletesecretweapon.com website, and all the information's there. You can contact me there. You've got access to the online program.
Yep. Okay.
And if you wanted to, what we can do, Matt, is set up a discount for any of your people listening if they want to purchase the online program. It's $495 US. So we can do a, say, 40% special if you want, if anyone's interested in it.
Wow, thank you very much. That's amazing. Again, very generous. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. That'll bring about $295, $297 US, which is around $450-ish Australian at the moment.
And that's an 8-week program.
8-week online delivered hypnosis program with workbooks, all the processes we've spoken about.
Yeah, no, fantastic. Well, I'll certainly put the link to that as well in the show notes, and we'll probably pop that in a weekly email as well, to make our athletes aware of that.
It's because of this time where people are in lockdown. It's amazing the programs. I've got international world champions running through that program at the moment. So
yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's an incredible program. It's really good.
Thank you very much. Well, I appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
It's been great to catch up, and I know we're going to chat again about a slightly different subject, and I'm excited for that. But for today, thank you very much, and look forward to seeing you next time.
You're welcome, Matt, and thanks everyone for joining. Take care.
Well, there you have it. Thank you very much for watching, and if you've enjoyed this, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below and the little bell icon so you get notified every time we upload a new episode. And if you think that one of your training buddies would also enjoy this, go ahead and share it with them right now. Thank you once again, and we'll see you next time.